A single mom, working double shifts as a nurse, finally broke down in tears inside a hospital supply closet. She thought no one could hear her, but someone did. A paralyzed listening to the thin walls. What happened next would change both of their lives forever. Before we dive into this emotional journey, make sure to subscribe, hit the like button, and turn on notifications. Stories like this remind us that hope is always closer than we think. The breaking point. Location: St. Bernadette's Hospital, Chicago, 11:47 p.m. The fluorescent lights in the neurology wing hummed like a swarm of exhausted bees. Mia Carter, 32, tightened her grip on the medication cart, her knuckles blanching under the strain. Her feet, swollen from 14 hours in cheap sneakers, ached with every step. For more patience, then you can check on Liam. She repeated the mantra in her head, clinging to it like a lifeline. Her 5-year-old son, Liam, was asleep in the pediatric ward downstairs, his tiny chest rising and falling under the weight of cystic fibrosis. The hospital had become their second home, his treatments, her shifts, their unspoken routine. But tonight, the routine shattered. Patient room 312 had coded. A stroke victim, mid-50s, no family listed. Mia had pumped his chest, shouted for the crash cart, felt his ribs crack under her palms. The EKG flatlined anyway. Time of death, 11:32 p.m. The resident had muttered. Mia nodded, robotic. But as she peeled off her gloves, the man's wedding band glinted in the trash bag with his belongings. Someone loved him. The thought lodged in her throat like glass. The supply closet breakdown. The supply closet was her sanctuary, a cramped space smelling of antiseptic and desperation. Mia slammed the door shut, the click of the lock louder than she intended. Then the dam broke. Tears scalded her cheeks. She slid down against the shelves, rattling boxes of gauze and saline bags. Her phone buzzed, another alert from the bank. $12,847.62 overdrawn. The latest bill for Liam's gene therapy glowed on the screen. $38,000. Payment overdue. "I can't do this anymore," she whispered, pressing her forehead to her knees. Her ex-husband's voice slithered into her mind. "You'll never make it without me." 2 years gone, no child support, just silence. She'd sold her car, skipped meals, even donated plasma, but the numbers kept growing. A sob tore from her chest. What if I fail him? The man behind the wall, 3 feet away, separated by drywall thin enough to hear a sigh. Daniel Wright lay paralyzed in his private suite. Once the golden boy of Chicago's tech scene, the 40-year-old CEO now existed in a nightmare of beeping machines and pitying glances. A car accident 6 months ago had severed his C2 vertebra. Lucky to be alive, the doctor said. Daniel wasn't so sure. His eyes flicked a clock, 11:49 p.m. The night nurse was late with his meds. Probably avoiding the freak in room 314, he thought bitterly. Then he heard it, a muffled cry. Then another, sharp, gasping, the kind of pain that couldn't be faked. Daniel's fingers twitched, a phantom impulse to reach out. Pathetic. You can't even lift a hand. But the crying didn't stop. It twisted into words. "God, please, I just need one break." A woman's voice. Young, terrified. His throat tightened. He knew that tone. It was the same one his wife, Claire, had used the night before the accident. "Daniel, you're never here. What's the point of all this money if we're alone?" He'd snapped at her. The next day, he'd been texting during the drive. The crash was his fault. Now, a stranger's despair echoed through the wall, and for the first time in months, Daniel felt something. The intercom. Mia wiped her face with her scrub sleeve. "Get it together. Liam needs you." She stood, knees wobbling. "BZZT." The intercom above her crackled to life. A man's voice, rough with disuse. "Nurse Carter, can we talk?" Mia's breath hitched. Room 314. The paralyzed CEO. "How did he—" "I heard you," the voice continued. "And I think I can help." The unexpected confession. Mia's pulse roared in her ears as she stared at the intercom. The voice, dry and rasping like gravel underfoot, had come from room 314. Daniel Wright, the billionaire who hadn't spoken more than 3 words to anyone in weeks. He heard me. Shame burned through her. A nurse wasn't supposed to break down. A mother wasn't supposed to admit defeat. She inhaled sharply, smoothed her scrubs, and wiped her face with the back of her hand. Get it together. You can't afford to lose this job. With forced steadiness, she pushed open the supply closet door and stepped into the dim hallway. The hospital was eerily quiet at this hour. The only sounds a distant beeping of monitors and the squeak of her sneakers against the linoleum. Room 314's door was slightly ajar. Mia hesitated, then knocked lightly. "Come in," came the reply. The room was bathed in the soft blue glow of medical equipment. Daniel Wright lay motionless on the bed, his body a silhouette beneath the thin hospital blanket. Only his eyes, sharp, startlingly alert, moved as she entered. "You heard me," Mia said, her voice steadier than she felt. Daniel exhaled through his nose, something almost like a laugh. "Walls are thin here." A beat of silence. Mia crossed her arms, defensive. "If you're going to report me for her..." "I'm not." His gaze didn't waver. "I just know what it's like to feel trapped." Mia stiffened. "With all due respect, Mr. Wright, you're lying in a private suite with a team of specialists. I doubt you know what trapped really feels like." His jaw tightened. For a long moment, he didn't respond. Then, quietly, "Money doesn't fix guilt." Something in his tone made her pause. Daniel turned his head slightly, one of the few movements he could manage. 6 months ago, I was driving my wife home from dinner. I was on the phone with my board, arguing about a merger. Claire, she asked me to hang up, said I wasn't paying attention to the road. His voice cracked. I told her to stop nagging. Mia's breath caught. The truck ran the red light. I saw it too late. His throat worked. Claire died on impact. I walked away with a broken neck. The weight of his words pressed against Mia's chest. She had seen his file, knew the extent of his injuries, but she hadn't known the story behind them. "I'd give every penny I have," Daniel whispered, to hear her voice one more time. Mia's defensiveness crumbled. In that moment, she didn't see a CEO. She saw a man drowning in regret. Before she could respond, the door swung open. Ethan Wright stood in the doorway, his tailored suit and polished shoes a stark contrast to the sterile hospital surroundings. His gaze flicked from Mia to Daniel, suspicion darkening his features. "Why is the nurse in here after hours?" Mia straightened. "Just checking vitals." Ethan's lip curled. At midnight, Daniel's voice cut in, colder than Mia had ever heard it. I pressed the call button. She answered. That's her job. Ethan held his brother's gaze for a long moment before shrugging. "Fine, but let's not waste staff time on unnecessary visits." He shot Mia a dismissive look. "You can go." Mia nodded and turned to leave, but not before catching the way Daniel's fingers twitched against the sheets, like he wanted to stop her. As she stepped back into the hallway, her mind raced. Ethan's presence had shifted something in the room, a tension so thick it was almost suffocating. And Daniel's confession. She glanced back at the closed door. Were you really trapped in, Mr. Wright? And why did she feel like she just stepped into the middle of it? A dangerous alliance. The next morning, Mia moved through her rounds like a ghost, her mind replaying Daniel's words. Money doesn't fix guilt. She had spent the night researching him. The brilliant, ruthless CEO of Wright Innovations, the tragic accident that killed his wife, the brother who'd taken over as his legal guardian. Ethan Wright's face stared back from her phone screen in every article. Polished, smiling, always standing just a little too close to Daniel's wheelchair in the photos. Something about him made her skin prickle. At 10:15 a.m., she was restocking 4 bags when Dr. Rivera, the neurologist overseeing Daniel's case, approached with chart. "Mia, I need you to adjust Mr. Wright's medication schedule. His brother insists we taper off the nerve stimulants." Mia frowned. "But those are helping his motor function trials." Rivera's mouth tightened. Guardian's orders. He handed her the file and walked away before she could argue. The change wasn't just unusual, it was dangerous. She'd seen the faint flickers of movement in Daniel's fingers during therapy. Taking away the medication now could halt his progress entirely. Her brake found her outside room 314 again. This time, she knocked properly. Daniel's eyes tracked her as she entered. The heart monitor beeped steadily between them. "You're back," he said. Mia held up the chart. "Your brother is changing your treatment plan." A muscle jumped in Daniel's jaw. Of course he is. The bitterness in his voice surprised her. She stepped closer. Why would he do that? Daniel studied her for a long moment, as if deciding how much to trust her. Then, quietly, "Because if I show improvement, the court could restore my medical autonomy, and Ethan loses control of my company." The pieces clicked together with cold clarity. Mia's grip tightened on the chart. "That's corporate homicide?" Daniel's smile didn't reach his eyes. He'd call it compassionate care. "I'm suffering, after all." The heart monitor beeped faster. Mia glanced at the door, lowering her voice. "We should tell Dr. Rivera." Rivera reports to the hospital board, half of whom owe Ethan favors. Daniel's gaze burned into hers. "I need someone outside the system." The unspoken request hung between them. Mia's stomach twisted. Helping him meant risking everything: her job, Liam's insurance, their fragile stability. But then she remembered the wedding ring in the trash bag, the way Daniel had listened when no one else did. Daniel saw her hesitation. "My foundation funds pediatric cystic fibrosis research. Whatever treatment your son needs." "Don't." Mia's voice came out sharper than she intended. "This isn't about money." "Then let it be about proof." He nodded toward the computer in the corner. "Check my medication logs. Look at the dates." Against her better judgment, Mia pulled up the records. The pattern emerged immediately. Every time Daniel showed progress in therapy, his medications were altered days later. Her blood ran cold. A noise in the hallway made them both freeze. Footsteps. Too close. Mia quickly closed the files just as the door handle turned. Ethan walked in holding 2 coffee cups, his smile freezing when he saw Mia. "Nurse Carter." "Again." He set 1 cup on Daniel's tray. "Brother, you're monopolizing the staff." Daniel's voice was ice. "She was checking my vitals." "At 2 p.m.? How fortunate." Ethan's gaze slid to computer, then back to Mia. "Everything in order?" Mia forced herself to meet his eyes. "Perfectly." The silence stretched. Ethan took a slow sip of coffee. "Good. Then you won't mind if I speak to my brother alone." It wasn't a request. Mia nodded and turned to leave. At the door, she glanced back, just in time to see Daniel's finger twitch against the sheets. A silent plea. "Help me." Out in the hall, Mia pressed a hand to her racing heart. She just stumbled into a war between brothers, and she wasn't sure which side was more dangerous. The escape plan. The next 3 days passed in a tense rhythm. Mia moved through her shifts mechanically, avoiding room 314 during visiting hours when Ethan was likely to appear. But every night after final rounds, she would slip inside, sometimes just for 5 minutes, sometimes longer, to update Daniel on what she'd discovered. Tonight, she carried more than just information. A stolen keycard from the nurse's station burned in her scrub pocket. Daniel was awake when she entered, his eyes tracking her immediately. The bruises under them had deepened. "They increased your sedatives," Mia said quietly, checking the 4 bag. Ethan's idea. His voice was slurred slightly, but his gaze remained sharp. "Did you find it?" Mia nodded, pulling a folded paper from her bra. The only place security cameras wouldn't see her retrieving something. Rivera's personal notes. He suspects what's happening, but can't prove it. She smoothed the page against her thigh. "There's more. They're transferring you tomorrow." Daniel went very still. "Where?" "Maplewood Care Facility." The words tasted bitter. "Officially, it's for specialized rehab, but the place is practically a hospice. Once you're there, I'll never leave." Daniel finished. His fingers twitched against the sheets. Not a spasm this time, but a deliberate movement. 2 fingers extended. A victory sign. Mia leaned closer. "What is it?" 2 days ago, he whispered. "I moved my right hand. Not much, but enough." His eyes burned with desperate hope. If I can show progress before the transfer, they'll cancel it, Mia realized. Her mind raced. We'd need witnesses. Medical proof. Rivera, Daniel said, and we'd need to force Ethan's hand. A dangerous plan formed between them in the quiet hum of the hospital room. Mia's pulse pounded in her ears. This wasn't just breaking rules. It could mean losing her nursing license. But the image of Liam's pale face in his hospital bed flashed before her. Daniel wasn't the only one running out of time. She reached for the blood pressure cuff. Tomorrow at 9 a.m., Rivera does his rounds. I'll make sure he checks you first. As she spoke, she slipped the key card beneath Daniel's pillow. The service elevator needs this after hours. If this works... The door creaked open. Both froze. Ethan stood in the doorway, his designer shoes silent on the tile. His gaze dropped to Mia's hand on Daniel's wrist, then to the unusually close distance between them. Working late again, Nurse Carter? His smile didn't reach his eyes. Mia straightened, willing her voice steady. Routine check. His blood pressure is none of your concern anymore. Ethan stepped inside, pulling an official-looking document from his briefcase. I've arranged private care starting tonight. You're relieved of duty. Daniel's monitor spiked. The hell you have. Ethan ignored him, addressing Mia. Security will escort you out. Panic clawed up Mia's throat. If she left now, Daniel would disappear into some private facility where no one could monitor his treatment, where accidents happen all the time. She forced herself to nod, moving toward the door, then deliberately bumped a bedside tray, sending a cup of water crashing to the floor. Clumsy, she muttered, dropping to her knees to clean it up. As she did, her fingers brushed Daniel's. The key card passed between them in the chaos. Ethan grabbed her arm, yanking her upright. Enough. For a heartbeat, they stood nose to nose. Mia saw the moment Ethan realized she knew. His grip tightened painfully. You'll regret this, he hissed, low enough that only she could hear. Mia wrenched free. I already do. As security led her away, she glanced back. Daniel's hand lay perfectly still on the sheets, except for two fingers curled inward against his palm. Hold on, the gesture said. I'm coming. The second chance. The hospital corridors had never felt so long. Mia walked briskly down the service stairwell, her stolen keycard clutched in one hand, a syringe of adrenaline in the other. The clock on her phone read 8:47 a.m., 13 minutes until Dr. Rivera's rounds. 13 minutes to change everything. Above her, the faint beep of monitors guided her like a heartbeat. She paused outside the neurology wing, pressing her back against the cold wall as two orderlies passed. Their laughter faded around the corner. Now or never. She swiped the keycard. The door clicked open. Room 314 was dark, the curtains drawn. Daniel lay motionless, his face gaunt under the dim glow of the heart monitor. But his eyes, those were alive, sharp with focus as they locked onto hers. You came, he rasped. Mia didn't waste time. Ethan moved you up. Rivera's coming in 5. She pulled back the blanket, revealing Daniel's bare legs, pale, thin, but twitching with faint muscle spasms. Can you feel this? She pressed 2 fingers against his calf. A sharp inhale. Yes. Progress. Real progress. Mia's hands trembled as she prepped the syringe. This'll boost your nerve responses. It'll hurt. Daniel's lips curled. Do it. The needle slid in. For 3 agonizing seconds, nothing happened. Then, Daniel's back arched off the bed, a strangled gasp tearing from his throat. His right hand shot out, fingers splaying across the sheets. Not a spasm. A grip. The door burst open. Dr. Rivera froze mid-step, his coffee slipping from his hand. It hit the floor with a splash. Daniel? Rivera's voice cracked. He rushed forward, grabbing the chart at the foot of the bed. Your vitals! How is this possible? Across the room, the heart monitor screamed as Daniel's pulse spiked. His fingers dug into the mattress, knuckles white. With a grunt of effort, he lifted his forearm. Just an inch, but enough. Enough for Rivera to see. The doctor's face went slack. Oh my God! Footsteps pounded down the hall. Ethan appeared in the doorway, his suit immaculate, his smile already forming, until he saw Daniel's raised arm. The color drained from his face. Called aboard, Rivera barked, already reaching for his phone. And get security. This man's medical rights are under review immediately. Ethan lunged forward. You don't understand. I understand perfectly. Rivera stepped between him and Daniel, his voice dropping to a growl. Altering a patient's treatment to suppress recovery? That's not just unethical. That's criminal. Ethan's gaze darted to Mia. Rage twisted his features. You did this. She stood her ground. No, he did. She nodded to Daniel, whose chest heaved with the effort of holding his arm up. But he held it, defiant, alive. The last thing Mia saw before security dragged Ethan away was a look in Daniel's eyes, not triumph, but something deeper, something like gratitude. 1 year later, the ribbon gleamed under the afternoon sun as Mia snipped it, the crowd erupting into applause. Behind her, the New Right Pediatric Research Center stood tall, its glass walls reflecting the Chicago skyline. A hand touched her elbow. She turned to find Daniel standing beside her, no wheelchair, just a cane and a smile. You nervous? He asked. Mia glanced through the center's doors, where Liam sat in the lobby, coloring with another child. His cheeks were pink, his breathing easy. The experimental treatments Daniel had funded had worked. Not even a little, she said. Daniel chuckled, leaning on his cane as they walked inside. The lobby buzzed with doctors and donors, but his attention stayed on her. You know, I never did thank you properly. Mia arched a brow. The $1 million research wing wasn't enough. That was for Liam. He stopped, turned to face her fully. This is for me. And then, in front of everyone, Daniel Wright took his first unaided step forward and pulled Mia into an embrace. The crowd gasped. Cameras flashed. But all Mia heard was his whisper in her ear. Thank you for listening through the walls. If this story moved you, don't forget to subscribe, and share it with someone who needs hope today. Because sometimes the most life-changing moments happen where no one thinks to look. In the quiet, in the dark, in the spaces between us. Turn on notifications so you never miss an inspiring story like this one. Who knew a hospital supply closet could hold so much hope?